my beautiful friends, it's Amanda here, and today we're talking about a brand new release from ColourPop. You already know what it is. It's the Pokemon collection. There are a lot of very excited Pokemon lovers in my house, myself included. My son likes to call me his Pokemom, and I will admit I am the least avid Pokemon fan in the household. However, I dabble. I dabble for sure. My 9-year-old son plays in Pokemon card game tournaments every other week. He's played a bunch of the Switch games. I think he just finished beating one of them. He's watched all of the shows. We've watched the shows with him. This is a big deal in my household, okay? There will be a second video coming up where I do some tutorials, show you some of these things in action, and my resident 9-year-old Pokemon expert will weigh in on what he thinks about the collection as well. It's good to get a bunch of different viewpoints, and I'm more of the makeup expert. He's the Pokemon expert, so expect to see more Pokemon ColourPop content coming from us in the future. For now, though, this collection is currently available on the ColourPop site, and it will be coming to Ulta on May 12th. There's no word yet on if the sold out items will be restocked or not. However, a bunch of these things are still in stock. It seems like they did a much better job preparing for this launch versus other launches with big fandoms previously. The last time I checked, only the lip mask and the pH lip balms were sold out. Otherwise, I think everything else is available. Oh, maybe one of the Super Shocks is gone too. But there are still a lot of Pokemon fun products to be had. If you decide to pick up any of these items, you can use my affiliate code. It's just my first name, Amanda, and that will save you 10% on any of the individual items. This will not apply to sets, bundles, the full collection, anything like that. But if you're just picking up a couple of individual items, then you can use my affiliate code, and I greatly appreciate everybody who does do that. It really supports the channel. It helps me out. It lets me know that what I'm doing is helping you out. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And if not, that's cool too. No pressure. We're just here to swatch, have fun, look at some pretty shiny makeup. So let's get to that fun part now. We're starting off with the cutest little Pokeball. This is the You're a Catch lip mask. I think this is the most genius packaging. I love this. I wish there were more Pokeball items because this is just so much fun. I am very easily entertained. This looks like a toy. I just think it's so cute. And you know what? The lip mask in here is really nice too. It is berry scented. It's a very sweet berry scent. And this is by far one of my favorite items in the collection. I just think the packaging is simple to the point, genius. The product inside is something that I will continuously go back to and use and use up. You can see there's a little bit of sparkle here when you look at the lip mask close up, but once it's applied, I don't really notice that at all. Even here in swatch, where I think it would be more noticeable than actually on the lips, you don't really pick up on a lot of those little sparkles. It just comes off as very clear. I love this. I'm not at all surprised that it sold out. And speaking of sold out, let's move on to the pH lip balms. I think these were the first things to go, and I can see why on first glance these are, first of all, adorably packaged. I love this. I like that even though we're getting a lot of Pikachu stuff, we see Ditto, we see Jigglypuff, we're gonna see other Pokemon featured besides just the starters, and I think that was really clever, really cute. These pH balms look very stunning when you see this glitter suspended in these little clear balms. They look really cool. This is an Instagrammable, this is a TikTok viral looking type of product. However, for me, these are my absolute least favorite product. Again, I'm not surprised that they're sold out. I do think that this is gonna be, it's a TikTok viral moment type of product. And the idea is cool. The packaging is cool. These just don't really do anything for me. They're very subtle. All three of them look exactly the same. They just have this like slight pinky little look to them. I've never been a fan of the pH color changing items, but these just seem to be especially lackluster in my opinion. I get it. I get the appeal of this. I don't think that it's a bad idea. I just think this is an example of all style and no substance. So, if you are feeling FOMO about missing out on this particular item since it sold out so quickly, I would say maybe I can let you feel a little bit better. This is my least favorite product. I just don't think they're that great. I do think they're probably overhyped because of how cool they look on the outside, but performance wise, these are very blah, boring, bland for me personally. Now, I am excited to see my girl Evie get a little bit of love here in this Evolution Ultra Glossy Lip Kit. This is 3 different ultra glossy lips, all dedicated to 3 different Evolutions. Jolteon's shade is called Thunderstone, Flareon's shade is Firestone, and Vaporeon's shade is Waterstone. Now, these aren't my personal favorite evolutions. I would have loved to see something more intense, something a little bit sultry, smoky, inspired by Umbreon. Maybe we could have had some cool silvery highlighter, silver purple flip type of highlighter for Espeon. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here, but I like the more offbeat evolutions, and I think we really missed an opportunity to do something super super cutesy and pink with Sylveon. But I mean, I'm an Eevee stan, so I guess I just have a lot of extra feelings about this. I will say though, in comparison to the pH little lip balm thingies, these are a lot more interesting. I'm much more likely to wear these and to reach for these. I love that they did a blue gloss. I always like when they do something outside of the box, outside of their normal pinks and nudes type of comfort zone. And a Pokemon collection is a great excuse to do that. So this is my preference out of the 2 lip options, but none of these are really my favorite pieces overall in the collection. I am happy to see some really interesting cream blush options. We have 3 different cream blushes here. These are 14 US dollars a piece. We have another Pikachu feature here, but then we also have a very cute supporting cast. There's a Clefable and a Gengar. I really like seeing a lot of different Pokemon featured here. I think this makes so much sense considering how many different Pokemon there are to choose from. So inside of Metronome, there's a whole selection of a bunch of different pink colored Pokemon. I think it's so cute. I love that. Same thing in the Hypnosis blush. We've got a lot of purpley Pokemon here. I know I see some favorites from my household. Grimer, Mewtwo, these are definitely popular here. And a purple blush is just so genius. I love, again, seeing them go out of the box. A red blush for Pikachu. Of course, Pikachu gets the whole spotlight for Electro Ball. He would, classic Pikachu. But seeing a red cream blush and this purple cream blush really excite me. These are some of my favorite pieces in this collection. I definitely don't fault them for doing a pink blush. At least here they did a nice bright pink that really makes sense within the context of a Pokemon themed collection. So I'm not mad about it. And I think that a lot of my pale peeps will appreciate having this lighter option. But in general, I do think that Hypnosis and Electro Ball are overall more interesting and they're going to add something different to a lot more people's collections. So it's really a matter of taste too. I mean, you can wear this blush more sheared out or you can see how different it looks when you layer it up. You can really build and blend these. And I think it would even be fun to mix some of the colors together to create your own custom blush shade. Just depending on your personal style and your skin tone, you can make the call for which one you think is going to be the best. But texture wise, these all seem to be equal to each other. My personal favorite is Hypnosis. That's the one I'm going to be reaching for to wear first, just because I think it's this really interesting, bright, vibrant orchid shade. But these all seem really nice. These are definitely favorites for me alongside these three Super Shock shadows. Of course, we had to give a little love to the other starters. And I think some cute little Super Shock shadows are the perfect way to go here. Of course, the packaging is exactly on point for all of these. I've seen a couple people saying that they wished the packaging design was more creative and not just the characters on there, but I would venture to guess that there's a whole lot of licensing locked down around these Pokemon characters and how they're used, how they're portrayed. So I have a feeling that they probably didn't have a lot of creative license with this intellectual property. And at the end of the day, when it comes to such a beloved property like Pokemon, it's probably not wise to stray too far outside of the realm of the nostalgic connection that so many people have. We have multiple generations of Pokemon lovers at this point, so I understand staying really close to the original source material on this one, probably for both legal reasons and just to show respect to the origin of this theme. I think that these Super Shock shadows are so pretty. They're super shimmery. I love that the Solar Beam one has this really interesting green to pink shift. I think this is my favorite one of the three, but I can actually see myself wearing any and all of these. The blue color, which is not one that I typically go for, is just like a perfect, crisp, clean pool. It just looks like summer to me. I think these are all absolutely stunning. These are probably the second place for me. The Pokeball lip mask is my top favorite product, but these are a close second. And if I was just going to pick up one thing because I'm a Pokemon lover, this is what I would go for personally. The final piece of the collection, of course, is the Palette Town palette. You have no idea the fear I felt in my heart every time I was typing up these titles because the Palette Town is Pallet and eyeshadow palette is Palette. So not only is that just confusing in and of itself, but I am definitely dyslexic, so this feels like a trap. Please forgive me in the future if I transpose palette and palette. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty here. The Palette Town palette is 30 US dollars. This has 24 eyeshadow shades, and this palette is the exact same dimensions as the BT21 Bon Voyage palette. If you have that one, then you know this is a slightly different dimension than the Mega palettes, and this one has the larger pan size like Bon Voyage did, whereas the Mega palettes have the smaller pan size. The layout here is 6 columns of monochromatic-ish color stories. The left side of the palette is more cool tones. The right side of the palette is more warmer tones. Not as a rule, but just in general. And I like this layout. I think it's really user friendly. I think it's evocative of a very cartoon type of color story. And I think they did a good job here of giving us light, medium, and some deeper shades too. So I know that there's going to be a whole lot of different types of looks that come out of this one. I do find that some of these matte shades are a little bit more on the thinner slash drier side. Now, I haven't used these on my eyes yet, so we all know by this point that swatches don't tell us everything, but I have swatched what I believe to be every single ColourPop palette in existence, and I can say that these are on the less pigmented end of the spectrum, which isn't a bad thing for everybody. I do personally prefer a little bit more intense rich formula for my eyeshadows, but I do think something like this is going to be better for somebody who's newer to eyeshadow or somebody who just prefers a softer application. So just because it's not what I prefer doesn't mean that it's bad. This may just be more suited to somebody else's preferences. And I will say the color story is super pretty. I particularly love this half of the palette just because it is so different for ColourPop. And all of the shades flow together really nicely. The arrangement also makes it very user friendly. Even though I am more visually drawn towards the cooler half of the palette, I will say that my absolute favorite shade in this palette is on this side. I'm sure you can probably venture a guess what it is. It's that super dark brown copper rusty red shade that's called Cinnabar Island. That for me is the single most interesting shade that I cannot wait to put on my eyelids. It's kind of stealing the show from its next door neighbor shade, this red called I Choose You. That's the one in the palette close up that had the little Pokeball impression stamped into the actual shadow. I thought that that red I Choose You shade was going to be the stunner, but in my opinion, it's Cinnabar Island. As usual, though, that's just a matter of preference. Everybody's going to have their own color story that they like to work with or that they find most intriguing in this palette. Here's a quick swatch of all of the shades together. That way you can see a cohesive look at the color story. I wanted to show you the finger and brush swatches more spaced out so that you could actually see the shadow instead of them all being jammed into my arm. But I did want to give you a look at the color story as a whole. And I think this is super pretty. You know, it's a rainbow palette. We've all seen a whole lot of rainbow palettes in our lives. But I like this one, and I'm not usually a rainbow palette type of gal. I don't have a huge number of palette comparisons here, but I did want to make sure I gave you a few just to give you a reference point. First is a throwback. This is the So Jaded palette they did in collaboration with Kathleen Lights many, many moons ago. And I think you can kind of tell what I mean here about the mattes in particular. The shimmers too, but it's definitely the mattes where I notice just a softer, drier type of texture. And these are just finger swatches. And my So Jaded palette is many, many years old at this point, and it's still just packing a lot more punch than the Palette Town palette. Maybe that's done intentionally. I can't say for sure, but I do prefer the texture of the mattes in the So Jaded palette. And if you missed out on So Jaded, it looks like Palette Town could be a great suitable alternative for you. For my second round of comparisons, I wanted to combine the Play It Jewel and Fade into Hue palettes. Each of these had some shades that I wanted to compare, but neither one gave a good complete comparison. So they worked together. And if you're really just interested in the Palette Town palette for the shades, then personally, I think that if you already have Play It Jewel and Fade into Hue, you pretty darn near have all of these shades already. And I do also prefer the opacity of the mattes in these other mega palettes as well. The very last palette comparison we have here is actually the first one that I thought of. Like I said, this palette has the same dimensions. So I think that between the size, the shape, the cartoons of it all, it definitely jumped straight to the front of the line for me comparison wise. However, we are lacking quite a few of the shades that I would even venture to compare. I mean, I could have slapped some swatches in there, but they wouldn't have even been reasonably close. There's just not a one-to-one even semi comparison, especially for the cooler part of the palette. There are definitely some similar vibes, and I do think you could get some similar eye looks out of these two, but I definitely wouldn't call them one-to-one dupes. That is the end of my comparisons for this collection. I would love to hear What do you think about how they handled their little Pokemon collaboration? Is there anything you're interested in? What are you going to pick up? Do we have any of the same favorites? Maybe we have completely opposite favorites and you really like the stuff that didn't really grab my attention. That's okay too. We're all here to share our opinions. I love to hear what you think about things, so make sure you leave all your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching. Keep an eye out for my next Pokemon video, probably coming next week. And I love all your sweet little faces so much, and I'll see you in my next video. Okay, bye!